What's up peeps, Rockskull here. With Vendetta defeating Doomfist and gaining leadership of Talon, you might be wondering how certain heroes reacted to it. Before you make assumptions, I've given it some thought, and I do think it is a lot more interesting than just Overwatch members no likey, but villains likey. While definitely most Overwatch members think that way, there are actually a good bit of other heroes and villains that have some disparity in what they think of Vendetta's takeover in my opinion. We'll mainly be looking at this from the angle of, did this hero prefer Doomfist or Vendetta's rule? Starting at the dislike tier, this will feature heroes that do not like at all what Vendetta is doing, and or they are in a worse place because of this takeover. First, we will be having a few of those Overwatch members I mentioned in the intro, as these ones I think have more reason to dislike Vendetta in particular, besides just because of her attacks on Overwatch. Those being Winston, Genji, and Echo. In Winston's case, Vendetta destroyed his home that he cared so much about, he lost his longtime AI companion Athena, and her attack caused a lot of dismay within his recalled Overwatch organization. I think he's definitely at the top of her dislike list right now. For Genji, he had quite a lot of muddy history with their father, Antonio, and now Vendetta is having Talon support the Hashimoto clan. These are a group of criminals that seek power and money in Japan, usually through force. And recently, with Vendetta's help, they've taken full control of Tokyo. This actually provoked Genji to come over to save his home country, only to be overwhelmed and captured by this upgraded Hashimoto. So overall, I'd definitely say Genji is a pretty big Vendetta hater. Finally, we have Echo, who directly lost Dr. Liao because of an attack Vendetta's father, Antonio, did in Oslo. Dr. Liao was her creator, and Echo spent thousands of hours with her. With how Echo was programmed, she mimicked many of Dr. Liao's behaviors we see today, hence her name. Though Dr. Liao's death wasn't caused by Vendetta directly, her father being responsible for Echo losing the creator she cared so much about likely means Echo is going to be a lot more cautious around Vendetta than most, in my opinion. Sombra might be the biggest Vendetta hater after previously being part of Talon. Originally, she was only really a part of Talon to use their resources to further her own goals, instead of directly agreeing with Doomfist's philosophy. Despite having a caring side, she never hated Doomfist directly though, as he had a more organized and calm manner to his chaos. Vendetta, however, is a completely different story. As Sombra says herself, she's burning the world down. There's additionally the fact that she was pretty much a caretaker figure for Sigma when she was a part of Talon, and Doomfist never got in the way. Vendetta, however, keeps him prisoner, thinking of him as a weapon instead of a person. This all gives Sombra enough reason to be one of the biggest Vendetta haters in my opinion. Next up, we have a few of the older Overwatch members I haven't mentioned already. Mercy, Reinhardt, Sojourn, Torbjorn, and Tracer. These 5 have dealt with Doomfist's version of Talon to some degree, and know how different he was in his attacks on Overwatch in comparison. As mentioned, he was a lot more calm and calculated with his chaos, but Vendetta only seeks power and vengeance. Thus I think they would dislike Vendetta a lot more than other newer Overwatch members, as she is opening up old wounds, but bigger. I also do definitely think Sojourn is the top hater of this list in particular, as she has had to deal with the brunt of consequences trying to keep this recalled Overwatch in line after the attacks. Hanzo, Kiriko, and Mizuki I have here for a similar reason, that being the Hashimoto being directly assisted by Vendetta and her troops now in Japan, allowing for the Hashimoto to expand and become an even bigger threat. We see how powerful they are in the recent short story, as even with their clumsiness with the fancy weapons, they are able to capture Genji. Genji is a super powerful hero as we know from the lore, and we see him put up a crazy fight against the Hashimoto here, but just the sheer number of the Hashimoto and Talon soldiers combined is enough to overwhelm Genji. Hanzo and Kiriko likely saw this happen, and now also know just how powerful the Hashimoto have become with Talon's intervention. We haven't heard anything about Mizuki yet, but I think it's pretty safe to assume he feels this change too, likely doing even more for the Hashimoto he doesn't want to do. Zenyatta and Ramattra are next up, and I have them grouped together here as, despite their different philosophies, I do think they share the same reasons to dislike Vendetta. As shown in the Reconciliation comic, Ramattra knows Vendetta will just destroy the world doing what she's doing, and despite wanting to solve it differently with seeking peace instead of hiding, Zenyatta seemed to agree. Junker Queen is an interesting case, as we know Vendetta sent Maga over to Junkertown to reason with her and the Junkers, but some interactions in game show this didn't go well at all for Maga. Junker Queen kicked him out, and while we aren't given specific reasons yet, I do think I have a pretty good theory on why. The Junkers lost their home due to the chaotic nature of the Omnic War controlled by Anubis. So it would make sense that Junker Queen wouldn't like a human war criminal that's pretty much doing the same thing. Reaper is an obvious one, being the one directly responsible for her father's death, and following the orders of his vengeance-seeking daughter likely means Reaper would meet the same fate. Sigma is shown to greatly dislike Vendetta, as she only sees him as a living weapon. He's pretty much been in this exact position before too, and he definitely disliked it then. I don't know why she thinks imprisoning a living black hole is a good idea, but hey, you go girl I guess. Venture I was gonna put in the likes tier, but as I was writing the script for this video, it released a comic that changed everything. On a Monday. I thought Doomfist was the only one stealing artifacts, but it turns out Vendetta was helping Domina do the exact same thing. It brings up the question if Vendetta and Doomfist share the same goal of stealing artifacts for Vishkar, but either way, Venture definitely dislikes what Vendetta is doing a bit more. Domina had Talon literally blow up all those artifacts to escape, along with trying to blow up Venture and Lifeweaver, so safe to assume Venture goes here. To end off this tier, we have the newer Overwatch members. Anran, Bastion, Brigitte, Diva, Juno, Lucio, Mei, Pharah, Sierra, Weiying, and Zarya. They all are a little too new to understand how little Doomfist attacked the old Overwatch in comparison to Vendetta, but they definitely dislike Vendetta quite a bit for not really giving them a warm welcome to Overwatch. Now in terms of who hates Vendetta the most here, to the least, I want to say Sierra is at the top and Bastion at the bottom. For Sierra, it's simply because of what Vendetta had Emre and Freya do at Grand Mesa. I do think she's at least grateful Freya was there to spare her, so I'd say she doesn't quite fit with the big Vendetta haters I mentioned before, but I'd at least say she's the top of this group. For Bastion, I don't think he has much good reason to dislike Vendetta personally, besides what she did to Overwatch, especially since she hasn't been shown to have any anti-Omnic sentiment. Next we got the kinda dislikes tier, where they definitely do dislike what Vendetta is doing, but may have a reason to not dislike her as much as Doomfist. At the top we have Ana. As while she is definitely on the dislike Vendetta side, a positive is that she likely no longer has to worry about Talon going for old Overwatch agents. She was one of the main defenders of them after the Lost Ghost short story, but now she doesn't have to worry about that anymore, as I assume Vendetta has switched priorities, which must be at least slightly relieving. A bit ago, I would have grouped Cassidy with the other Overwatch members, but a recent comic featuring him is making me rethink all of it. I'd highly recommend reading it, or watching Matthew Mercer's cover of it if you haven't already. It has some of the best art I've seen in an Overwatch comic. Anyway, in this comic, Cassidy fights the Deadlock Gang, who teamed up with Talon to attack this Helix base. The part that's relevant to this video, though, is when Ashe kind of gets into Cassidy's head. She makes him wonder if giving himself up to Overwatch was even worth it after all that's happened, especially since Ashe never actually gave up on searching for Cassidy after he left the Deadlock Gang. This makes me believe Cassidy is starting to question if he's even on the right side. And with that, I don't see him fully disliking Vendetta in particular. As if Ashe trusts her enough to work with her, Cassidy might too. Baptiste was being hunted down big time by Talon after he left under Doomfist's rule. But now with Vendetta taking his place, he is likely in a bit of a safer spot. Vendetta did say she's all for hunting traitors, but I do think it's lower on the priority list for her right now compared to Doomfist. Lifeweaver and Ramattra are here because Vendetta is working pretty directly with Vishkar, a corporation they both at least kind of despise. But I'd say Lifeweaver definitely dislikes Vendetta a bit more with the recent comic. The reason I have them in this tier is because Vishkar has already been doing shady deal kind of things for a while now. So it's hard to say how much more they actually dislike Vendetta compared to Doomfist, as there's a good chance Talon was already working with them doing the exact same thing. Roadhog we have at the top of this tier, and he's another interesting one. We've never heard his thoughts directly on Vendetta's takeover, but similar to Junker Queen, I can make a few guesses. Roadhog is seen to be pretty wise behind the mask, and we also know from his past that he was part of the Australian Liberation Front. This makes me believe more than most Junkers he would hate people destroying the world like Vendetta is. I don't think he would be quite as mad as Junker Queen, however, as he has a bit more of a chaotic side being with Junkrat. Now we get into the neutral tier, where they probably don't like or dislike what Vendetta is doing, usually because they have other things on their mind. First we have Jetpack Cat. And I mean, like, bruh, what do you want me to say? It's just a freaking cat. There are some hints in her lore that she's a lot smarter than the average cat, but overall, it's very ambiguous in its current state. My current goofy theory is that this cat is one of Moira's failed genetic experiments that escaped. But until that's confirmed, she's just gonna go here. Speaking of Moira, she's kind of the reason I'm putting Iliari in this tier. We know from Futures Past and some voice lines in game that Moira has kind of held back on trying to get the records on the Inti warriors. I could both see it possible that Vendetta putting her focus on other things is the reason, making Iliari like Vendetta a bit. Or you could say the fact that she's still working with Moira makes Iliari unhappy. For these reasons, I'm just gonna put Iliari here. Junkrat is the embodiment of chaos, so you could say he might honestly like what Vendetta is doing. At the same time, similar to Junker Queen and Roadhog, his past of losing his home to chaotic war criminals might put a sour taste in his mouth. I couldn't decide which theory I liked more, so this chaotic boy goes in the middle of this tier list. Soldier 76 is still really hyper-focused on finding out what happened to the original Overwatch, and any attempts of him going back to his former state have failed miserably. Thus, I don't think he would really care what Vendetta is doing, unless stopping her somehow aligned with his goal, which I must admit could be possible via Emre and Chernobog. Hammond I wouldn't really see caring about this whole thing, unless Junker Queen commanded him to defend Junkertown from Maga. It also doesn't seem like Vendetta is getting involved with Liu Chang Interstellar in any way, so until we get answers on either of those things, Breaking Ball goes here for me. At the top of this tier we have Hazard, who I could see liking Vendetta for taking over local governments, but at the same time, similar to Iliari, working with Moira probably doesn't sit right with him, so I'll just put him at the top of this tier. Next we got the likes tier, where they may not fully agree with what Vendetta is doing, but overall, they are in a better spot with this new leadership. I would say Emre and Freya are at the bottom here, because they definitely don't agree with Vendetta's ideals, even though they work for her. However, they are likely grateful for what Vendetta did to get them there. Basically, Max promised Vendetta she'd get her a war machine, aka Emre, and he knew the best way to get Emre would be to get the ex-Overwatch agent who was closest with him, Freya. I'd say both Freya and Emre are grateful that this happened, as it honestly feels like they need each other in their current states. Freya helps Emre stay sane to keep Chernobog away, and Emre helps remind Freya of the good they did together. Orisa definitely dislikes Vendetta for what she has just done to Overwatch, but it also could be said that Orisa personally had a lot more beef with Doomfist in comparison. Doomfist attacked Numbani multiple times, and almost destroyed Orisa with each of these attacks. Doomfist also attacked one of Lucio's events, and this hurt Orisa a lot, as she is a big Lucio fan along with Ify. I think Orisa can at least feel a bit relieved that she doesn't have to worry about Doomfist's reign of terror on Numbani anymore. For Moira, we actually got a pretty nice short story going over her current thoughts of Vendetta's ruling, and what she's doing now. And overall, she seems pretty content about the whole thing. She states that Doomfist's whole thing was just staying out of her way, which she liked, and Vendetta remains to be seen. From what I gathered from previous comics, it does seem like Vendetta is willing to be a bit more strict with Moira, likely because she was there when her father got murdered. At the same time, however, Vendetta seems more active with Moira, to a point where I think Moira kind of likes it more. For example, Vendetta just did a successful raid on a Helix base to steal serum from the soldier enhancement program. She then gave this to Moira to enhance Vendetta's soldiers. I feel like Doomfist would have been a lot more hesitant to do this, meaning Moira would never get her hands on it before. All this makes me think, while Moira is still cautious, she welcomes this new leadership. Widowmaker is a very interesting case, as when it was first announced in the cinematic that she would be leaving under Vendetta's leadership, I personally was a bit confused. Widowmaker was made to be a biological weapon by Moira with no emotion, so you'd think she wouldn't care about such changes. However, over the course of Overwatch 2 interactions, we have seen a bit more of her humanity showing, even before Vendetta's release. Moira even realizes this, but Widow tries to hide it.
You've been distant lately, Lacroix.
By your design.
Pondering anything unusual? Dangerous?
No, never.
I'd like to think even though she tells Sombra she left because she knows Vendetta's leadership will fail, it's actually more so because she saw an opportunity to start gaining her humanity back, staying away from Moira. Her bio on the official Overwatch website supports this theory. This overall makes me believe she might end up appreciating the fact that Vendetta stole Doomfist's position, as she likely never would have gotten this opportunity otherwise. Ashe will be at the top of this tier. She made a deal with Vendetta to steal a weapons cache, and it actually went successful. This is the first time in a while something has gone right for the Deadlock Gang, and I bet this made Ashe gain a lot of respect for Vendetta and her plans. The only caveat to this all being Ashe wouldn't leave her gang for Vendetta, but I do think she would be willing to work with her again if something was mutually beneficial. Now we get to the Omega Vendetta fan tier, where these heroes believe in Vendetta's vision big time, or just respect what she's doing. Domina is at the bottom of this tier, and this is because of the honestly really messed up system they have going on between her and Vendetta. Basically, any communities affected by the aftermath of Vendetta's plan get repaired by the one and only Vishkar. This creates an infinite money glitch for Domina, so I think it's safe to say she gets put in this tier. Maga has been seen to be the biggest Vendetta fan in the lore. As you can see from day one, he's smiling and nodding his head. Can't lie, this gave me a good chuckle when I first saw this. The Rock nod vibes. Maga is all for more violence. As we know from his past, it was the main reason he joined Talon in the first place. Vendetta is also a lot less restrictive than Doomfist was, in terms of having Maga restrain himself. I also think Maga just has big respect for Vendetta defeating Doomfist, as when Maga tried to fight Doomfist himself before joining Talon, it ended in a draw. Now near the top of this tier, we got Vendetta of course, duh. I mean, have you seen those statues she made of herself on Rialto? Vendetta is one of the biggest Vendetta fans. It seems like I'm missing a hero. Who is it?
Humanity has always been tested. Conflict and war is the crucible through which we evolve. Every battle makes us stronger. Those who fall will be forgotten. Those who rise up, their names will be remembered forever.
This might seem like a joke to some of you at first, but I do genuinely think Doomfist has the highest praise for Vendetta after being defeated by her. The main reason being because it aligns perfectly with this whole philosophy. Only through conflict do we evolve. Doomfist has been defeated a few times already before this, but he always comes back stronger. The first was when he lost his arm during the Omnic Crisis, in which he got a new prosthetic arm. This loss led him to join Talon, and take over the previous Doomfist to make him even stronger. The second was when he got captured and imprisoned by Overwatch in a maximum security prison, where he stayed in for years on purpose, only coming back when he felt the moment was right. He took back his gauntlet, and he easily reclaimed his throne in Talon by killing the previous leader. Again, as you can see, this guy does not mess around, and I'm sure Doomfist survived that fall, and is going to come back even stronger once Vendetta's reign evidently falls. Thus, I think he's more than happy to be defeated by Vendetta, knowing he will now become a stronger man because of it. That's all just my opinion on every hero's thoughts on Vendetta's takeover. You can let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my placements. Thank you all for the support as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Rock skull. All he wants to do is stream all night. Lobby full, rock skull. Never gonna play with me, but it's alright.